Hi, Tech Moms. We're back doing part 2 of Fun with Pivot Tables. We are on this next question. What is the number of students by cohort? Now, these are example questions. Feel free to come up with questions on your own. And we'll kind of review the deliverable of the end result of the assignment and make sure, are we answering all the questions that we need to create this new annual report, and add questions from there. So the next question that I'll just move on to is, what is the number of students by cohort? We will go to the demographic data analysis that we got here. I will hide this, and I'll copy and paste that in, because that just makes it easier on my brain to remember what I'm doing. What is the number of students by cohort? And I'm going to do number of students by cohort. So how are we going to do this? Step 1, insert a pivot table. Existing sheet, pivot tables, create, and OK. And then from here, what do we want to add to the columns? What do we want to see? We want to see the cohorts in, we want to see it in the rows. That's how I want to see it, at least. So we've got all of these cohorts. Very cool. We've got a bunch of applicant, dead lead, level 2, past assessment, wait list. Okay. So let's see what happens when we do our thing and go contact ID values. Change it to count. So we've got a blank row with a count of 2. So that's part of our questions tab. There's 2 rows in here that aren't assigned a cohort. Why is that? Just kind of like on the topic of data cleaning and understanding the data, just understanding how it could be possible that there are some applicants that have nothing in that column. Only 2, so not that big of a deal. So we've got kind of dead lead, that's a lot. And then we've got like this wait list. Okay, so again, we've had this 1600 number, and we want to segment this or filter this by only students. So how are we going to do that? Applicant status, clear, and assign cohort. Okay, so that gets us that 500 number, so that's good. So then this is where it gets interesting, because we've got, we're able to see all of these numbers for all of these cohorts. Maybe you recognize the cohort that you were in. And we can go down here and see at the bottom, level 2 advanced applicant. Okay, that's interesting. I don't know what that means, so I'm going to write that in my questions tab. What does level 2 advanced applicant mean? Should we filter this from the data from our total number of students? Should it be included in the students or not? That's not something I know. And so that's something that I'm going to ask leadership when I send them my email of clarifying questions about this analysis. So otherwise, this is cool. Good to know. Again, I have jumbled up all of this data in the spreadsheet, so it doesn't correspond to like individual household income and stuff. So it is anonymous in the sense that this isn't actually real data that corresponds to like the person's line, because I wanted to keep it more anonymous. But we have the number of students by cohort, and this is impressive too, because you just see how many cohorts Tech Moms has run, and just the good that we're doing in the world. And the next question, then, I'm going to move on to, what else do I want to ask? What is the education of applicants that have been assigned a cohort? Copy. Paste. Education. education. Analysis, insert, pivot table, existing sheet. Click on the pivot table tab, click here, and click where I want it to go. I think that's what I'm doing wrong. I need to click there and then click where I want it to go. So I'm not perfect. Okay, create. So now what do we want to see here? How do we want to see this? What is the education of the applicants that have been assigned a cohort? I'm blocking everything. Education. I want to see in rows. Okay, so those are our different options there. I want to, in values, see the count of contact IDs. Got it. Okay, so we have 1681. So just an interesting question that just came up in my mind is I'm curious to talk to someone about how a student goes from being an applicant to a student and what that process is. But also I'm just curious to see if, remember there was like the dead leads, people that didn't maybe follow through with the application process. Is there like an education level correlated to dead leads? Like, do we want to filter on that? I don't know. Let's take a look right now. Let's take a look. So we're going to go application status here, clear, dead lead. So, and then we want to sort it by count, descending. Again, we did this before where it's just right here in the clickety clicks, count and order. But now I can see dead leads are, majority have a bachelor's degree, some have college, some have high school diploma. And how does this compare to those that were students? So let's do something here where if we right click, I want to add a calculated field. And I did this before in my other spreadsheet, but I don't remember how to do it because it was about a month ago that I did that other spreadsheet. So I have given you all access to this spreadsheet. This is TechMom's applicant data analysis with the completed dashboard. So what I love to do when I am doing analysis is I love copying other people's work. So you have access to this and you can kind of reverse engineer how to do things. So I could ask ChatGPT, like, how do I do a calculated field? Because I want to find the percentage. And here I did it just manually, but I remember I did it down here. So here, I'm going to click on edit. And then it's here on the values. Oh, yes. So if you see something in someone else's spreadsheet and you're like, how did I do that? You can click into it and find out how, how the sausage is made, basically, how that was done. And so I did this where I said, I do not own a laptop, or this is what type of computer. So I have the count here, and then I have another field here that's the percentage of total. And I didn't remember how I did that. So I clicked over and it looks like it's in this values field. So I'm going to do that on my new spreadsheet. So here, I'm going to drag in another contact ID. So it has another column, but I don't want the sum again. I want the count, and I want to show percent of grand total. And it automatically calculates for you. And this is why I love spreadsheets and I love pivot tables, because it's just really easy sometimes. So again, you want it to add up to 100, which it should do automatically. But you can see, okay, and I'm just going to put here dead leads. So 25% of dead leads have bachelor's, 21% have some college. So again, segmenting, let's see. So I have this sum over here, if you can see it. 75% of dead leads do not have a bachelor's degree. So that I think is pretty interesting because I remember, because I've already done this analysis, that the numbers are different for students. So let's just do another pivot table. I'll just copy and paste this here because I don't think I can do that. So this is the dead leads here. And then this, we're going to do students. And then here in the filter, so here my filter is showing dead leads. And then here my filter is also showing dead leads, but I want to move this to assign cohort. So those are the students. And let's see if I can give you a better view of this. Let's close that out. Okay, so education of applicants. And I can just do here. This is the students. This is the dead leads. And I can see here 65% of students do not have a bachelor's degree. So like accepted students are more likely to have a bachelor's degree, 10% more than over here where the dead leads, only 25% of the people that didn't go into the program have bachelor's degrees. So the insight from that could be that maybe these students that don't have bachelor's degrees are falling off at a higher rate than those that do have bachelor degrees. Maybe it's a confidence issue. So that's just something that we can be aware of. We can share that with leadership and say, maybe we should specifically have an outreach for dead leads that don't have bachelor's degrees because they're more likely to not follow through in the program. So does that make sense? So again, 65% of students do not have a bachelor's degree, but 75% of people that didn't enroll in the program don't have bachelor's degrees. So being able to summarize that in a digestible sentence, I would honestly be like this, I just kind of verbally spew all of this into ChatGPT and say, how do I like concisely say this in a sentence? And like pull the insight out of this. You have the numbers and then you have to formulate it into what's the insight from this and how do I communicate this? So, but for now we're going to move on. But this is kind of what comes up in an analysis. You're like, oh, this angle would be interesting. And so it's a lot of segmenting things of this is interesting, filtering, segmenting, and then you get more insights the more you segment the data. So from here, we're going to move on. Actually, we'll pause right there. We're at 13 minutes. So watch this, practice. Ask more questions of the data yourself, and then I'll be back with maybe one more pivot table video in part 3.